I hate bike comparisons. I just hate them. That would probably make you think, well, Mickey, you talk about motorcycles a lot. And I do talk about motorcycles a lot, and I don't get tired of talking about motorcycles, but bike comparisons to me are this necessary evil. It's not helpful to just say that I hate bike comparisons, but that's really how I feel about it. It's just kind of like one of those things where it just irks me. It just bothers me because I know they're necessary, but I also know that you get to a certain point where bike comparisons just don't really make sense anymore. And I can kind of compare this to food. Like if you have your favorite steakhouse or your favorite burger joint, somebody else can have a different favorite. And objectively, there's really no way to say that one burger is better than the other, or one steak is better than the other. And also, people can have different experiences at the same steakhouse. So the reason that it kind of bothers me is because there's too much subjectivity around this topic. And honestly, I think it's kind of clickbaity. I think it's disingenuous to be able to say that, like, hey, I have experience riding both of these motorcycles, so you should listen to me because I'm going to be able to tell you what's best for you. I think that there's definitely a lot of carryover that we can say, hey, the vast majority of people who enjoy touring motorcycles and enjoy touring on touring motorcycles more than they would on, a rigid or a Sportster or a Softail. But then the subjectivity comes in where there's a lot of people, I have friends that would rather ride their shovelhead rigid across the country than they would one of these new modern baggers. And I think that type of subjectivity is really important to remember as we have new models dropping out and we have new colors and we're comparing this year's models to next year's models. Or if you're shopping for a bike and, 2026 models are coming out and there's 2025 models left over and you're like, well, what's the real difference? Like, how do I compare these two? And that's where it's necessary, because if you're not in a position to buy every single bike and have the time to ride all of them and put significant amounts of miles on them, then logically you have to be somewhat pragmatic about this and say, well, okay, I'm going to invest a bunch of money into something. I need to do my research and make sure that I'm investing it in the best place that I can. And that makes complete logical sense. We all know that. If you're investing big money into a Harley-Davidson, you should probably do your research and know that you're buying the right Harley-Davidson. And I meet tons of people that come into the shop, and a lot of them come into the shop because of the videos that Matt does on his channel and how informative they are. And they enjoy the videos that we do, and they come in to meet us and they want to shop with us. And most of these guys have done hours upon hours upon hours of research. And I just had this conversation with a customer yesterday, I believe. Well, I watched every video on this bike and I watched every video on this bike. Which bike should I get? And my answer is almost always exactly the same. At first, it's not a helpful answer. My answer is you should get the one that makes you the most happy. And then we kind of get into the pragmatism of decision making and saying that, like, okay, well, is this a good investment? Because I need to protect my investment. And if I'm going to take out a 5-year loan on a bike, or if I'm going to spend, $15,000, $18,000, $20,000 on a bike, I can't just waste that money. I need to spend it on something that has a value proposition that's going to bring me value in my life. And that absolutely makes sense. But the angle that I try to come in at is the emotional angle. And we're all trying to be logical. We're all trying to be smart with our financial decisions. We're all trying to be unemotional about these things. Is like this. Is this a good set of decisions to make? And the angle that I come in is from the emotional side. I think that these purchases should be an emotional purchase. I think that they should be a passionate purchase. I think a lot of the things that we find most important in hindsight after having made a purchase are the intangible things, the things that you can't really read on a spec sheet. So I spoke with a customer and we were talking about, different rake angles, and the Bagger has a 26-degree rake and the Lowrider has a 28-degree rake and the Heritage has a 30-degree rake. And what's the difference between all those? Are they different? Yeah, they're different. Do those differences mean a whole lot? Well, it kind of depends on who you are and what you value. So it's very difficult to make an absolute statement in saying that, like, no, 28-degree rake or nothing. There are no other bikes to consider unless it has a 28-degree rake. That sounds far less convincing to me as a spec on a piece of paper versus someone saying, I tried them all, and for some reason, this bike just speaks to me. And that emotional level, I think that emotional connection, that intangible thing that you can't put on a spec sheet, is the more important path to follow. If you're a football fan at all, we hear people talk about parity in the league, is that the reason we play the games is not because we need proof that one team has a better roster than the other, that one team has a better quarterback than the other, that one team has a better coaching staff than the other. The reason they play the games is because a lot of things can happen throughout the course of the game, and both teams have a chance of winning. And sometimes it's an upset. Sometimes the team that you think is better and you think is going to win doesn't win. And that's why we enjoy football. And that's part of the reasons why we enjoy watching the games. We like to see all these things unfold. And when it comes to parity or the similarities and how little differences there are, for instance, like the rake thing, yeah, there's 2-degree rake difference. And from a bagger to a heritage, we're talking about a 4-degree rake difference. But that doesn't mean that one of those rake differences is going to win every battle and for every rider in every circumstance possible. That's just not what it means. So in comes the subjective part and what you like and that emotional connection, whether you vibe with a bike or not. And this does happen quite a bit. I think I've spoken about it before, is, somebody will be comparing 2 bikes at the shop and I'm like, okay, we're going to go ride them both. And I take one, they take the other. We go about halfway through the test ride course and I pull over and we switch bikes and we pull out, and very soon after we'll hit a red light where we need to turn left. And it's almost always one of 2 things. It's either give me that bike back or this is the one. It's very, very rarely that someone comes back. I can remember one guy, Jeremy Casey, if you're watching, what's up, Jeremy, that we got back and he was like, I'm even more confused now. 99 times out of 100, the test ride will kind of give you that, yeah, I'm leaning towards this way. And it has nothing to do with specs. It has nothing to do with how well the road glide fairing does compared to the street glide fairing. And all of these are valid comparisons, but sometimes I think that we can get so deep into the details that we miss the forest for the trees. It's very difficult because for most of us, a $30,000 purchase is a very significant amount of money and not something that we can just throw away on a whim without doing any type of research, especially if that $30,000 goes towards something that isn't quite right. And then you look back in hindsight and you're like, I should have spent that $30,000 on something else that would have given me more value. So how can this be helpful? You got to ride the bikes and you got to spend a decent amount of time riding the bikes. I'm a huge advocate for renting bikes because sometimes a test ride isn't enough for people. If you've been riding road glides and you've had 5-6 different road glides throughout the years, and from a twin cam to the Rushmore twin cam to an M8 and to an ST and then a CVO and then the new fairings, and you've had all these different road glides. Sure, a test ride is going to tell you everything that you need to know about what kind of changes that they've made over the last couple of years. But for a lot of folks, this is a big risk. I kind of talk about this in another video about the never-ending quest for the perfect ergonomics, is that we're kind of always changing our bikes as we change and as we evolve and new products come out. We're kind of always changing our bikes up, and you can get very deep into a bike and into the financials of a bike as well. And then you could realize that, like, man, I really started with the wrong platform and I should have started on a different one. And that's the scenario that I'm trying to help people avoid. And I really think the best way to do it is to follow the vibe and to follow the emotion and follow the passionate side of things, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of parity. All these bikes can do almost all the same stuff. Are there differences? Absolutely. I'm not saying that there's not differences between them that we can point out, but what I am saying is that sometimes those differences are not the same for every single person. And you've got to find out which of those differences are important to you and which of those differences make a difference to you. There's a lot of things that don't make a difference to me. I like fairing bikes. I like touring bikes, but honestly, it's more of an aesthetic preference that I like the road glide. I've never owned a road glide, so I bought a road glide, but I've had a Batwing fairing, I've had a Road King with an RT on it, and now I have a road glide, and I like them all. I know that there are differences between them. They don't really change the value of my riding experience outside of road glides are in style right now. I think they look the best, so that's what I like. But for me to try to say that, well, the road glide cuts the air better, and that just doesn't apply to me. For some people it does, but for me it doesn't. So that's not a deciding factor when I'm trying to decide on what bike I'm going to buy. And this happens with everything all the time, is that I can make the best argument for whatever bike it is that you came to see. But if you test ride it and you just don't like it, there's nothing else that needs to be talked about. We need to find another bike that you do like when you test ride it. And I see this a lot in the comments on YouTube where somebody will make a video about a bike and there'll always be a comment. And I always kind of like look through the comments to see what people are saying. There'll always be a comment that's like, I know it's a great bike, but it's just not for me. And that is a valid thing. Like, that's the case with me on almost all the bikes, is that I love the bike. I think it's cool. Like, Fat Boys are dope. I think Fat Boys are cool. It's not for me. I wouldn't buy one, but they're awesome. I use the live wire at work a lot. We have a used live wire, and I take that on test rides. It's great during the summertime. It's quiet, so when we're at a street light, we're not yelling over two bikes. It's cold. It doesn't heat up. It's really fast, and it's not comfortable, but I'm only doing a short test ride, so that's not really important to me at the moment. And it's fun. It's something different. It's something that's out of the ordinary that I don't ride in my personal time. I would never buy one for me personally. They're not for me, but hey, that bike is a lot of fun to ride in the right circumstances. I guess maybe we can just enjoy bikes more, and we can just say that they're all cool, whether we would buy them or not. I think what happens a lot is that we have a subjective opinion about something, and we will speak about it in a very objective way, as if it's an objective opinion saying that, like, well, this is better than that because of this, when subjectively that may be true to you, but it is not an absolute truth for everyone. And this is all in an effort to encourage you to just get what you like and ride more motorcycles. The wider breadth of experience you have of riding different types of bikes and different models throughout the year is only going to increase your data and increase your knowledge base for when you are buying another bike and you have all this data to pull back from the experiences that you have. But yeah, this should absolutely be a rewarding experience, an emotionally rewarding experience to do this, because that's why we do this. So as new bikes come out, as new models come out, please remember the caveat is there are no absolutes. You've really got to get out there and ride the bikes and spend time riding the bikes. If you don't have any seat time on a bike, it's very difficult for you to give an objective opinion on that bike. It's like if we were arguing about two different burgers and you had never eaten either of those burgers in your life, and you're just looking at the menu description, you're looking at the pictures on the menu, and you're like, this one is better, that one's disgusting. And it's like, bro, you haven't even tasted them. Like, you have to be able to taste this stuff. You have to have tried things. And I would even argue that your opinion is even more valid if you've been eating different burgers your entire life and you have a Rolodex of information for all these different tastes that you've exposed yourself to over the years, and you have something comparative to put it up against. It would be very difficult for a food critic to critique a burger that they've never eaten. It would be even more difficult for someone to critique a burger that they've never eaten, and they've also never eaten a single burger in their entire life. So yeah, go ride more bikes. That's what this is all about. So if you have the right bike, that's perfect. That's where everybody wants to be. If you're still looking for that, I highly encourage you to ride more bikes. The more bikes you ride, the more data you have, the better types of decisions you can make. I'm not really good at decision making though. Look where I am. Don't listen to me. I'll see you guys on the next one.